China Mac has one of the wildest stories in the rap game. From repping one of the most savage gangs in New York and serving time for attempted murder, to becoming a social activist and beefing with Vlad TV and No Jumper, today we're breaking it all down. China Mac came up in New York's Chinatown in the 80s and was surrounded by violence his whole life. His parents were both Chinese immigrants, and his dad was a high-ranking dude in a Chinese gang called the Flying Dragons. China Mac's dad's nickname was Fox, and everyone in the neighborhood was afraid of him. The Flying Dragons were one of the most powerful crews in the city and were making a lot of money from heroin, and they were known for taking out anyone who got in the way. China Mac said he saw how everyone respected his dad and wanted to be just like that when he got older. Chinatown back then was one of the craziest places in the city. China Mac would walk out of his crib and see dead bodies in the street, and the Flying Dragons were making headlines all the time. Back then, the Flying Dragons were beefing with another Chinese crew called the Ghost Shadows, and they turned Chinatown into a war zone. Bodies were dropping on both sides all the time, and in '92, the Flying Dragons went on a wild hit that shocked the whole city, and it also had a massive impact on China Mac's life. A dude named Vin Thang Luong was one of the top dudes in the Ghost Shadows, and the Flying Dragons caught him in broad daylight. Vin was walking down Queens Boulevard when 20 Flying Dragon affiliates came out of nowhere and surrounded him. Then one of them shot him in the head and left him dead in the street. The violence had already been going on for years, but the cops finally started really cracking down on the Chinese gangs after the crash outs kept getting more brutal. A dude named Johnny Hang, aka Machine Gun Johnny, was the leader of the Flying Dragons and was ready to kill all of his ops in the city if he had to. Machine Gun Johnny even had a massive property out in Pennsylvania where the Flying Dragon affiliates would go and practice shooting machine guns. China Mac's dad, Fox, was one of the most powerful guys in the crew and was allegedly taking orders straight from Machine Gun Johnny. Being connected to the Flying Dragons like that gave China Mac a lot of respect in the neighborhood, but that all changed when his dad flipped on Machine Gun Johnny. China Mac's dad, Fox, got arrested and ended up becoming an informant for the feds. Machine Gun Johnny had been running the Flying Dragons crew for a decade, and the cops could never catch up to him. But after China Mac's dad flipped on Machine Gun Johnny, the feds finally took down the leader of the Flying Dragons. When everyone in Chinatown found out that Fox snitched on Machine Gun Johnny, everything changed for China Mac and his mom. Before that, everyone in the area respected him, but then Chinatown wasn't safe anymore for China Mac. Around the same time, China Mac started getting into rap and was freestyling for his homies. His mom tried to keep him out of the streets, but China Mac ran away from home when he was 12 years old and linked up with the same dudes who his dad used to be at war with. China Mac joined the Ghost Shadows and got active immediately. He was going in and out of juvie all the time for robbery and assault, but China Mac was catching cases way before he linked up with the Ghost Shadows. He got sent to juvie for the first time when he was just 8 years old for throwing a brick at somebody.
My mindset is more like people from the hood because I grew up in juvenile. You know what I'm saying? That's where my first year, my first age going into juvie, like I was 8 years old.
What did you do at 8, bro?
Like I did some wild shit. I would throw a brick at somebody.
The crews in Chinatown were way different than gangs like the Bloods and Crips. When China Mac decided to join the Ghost Shadows, they didn't jump him in or anything like that. Instead, he had to swear his loyalty to the gang in front of a Buddha statue and drink chicken blood. China Mac said he was crashing out at a young age just because his dad snitched and left the family in a bad situation. His dad, Fox, had a stain on his name from the snitching, and China Mac said he felt like he needed to prove to everyone that he wasn't like his dad. He was always ready for smoke, and that's how he ended up spending most of his life locked up. When China Mac turned 18, he caught his first serious charge and ended up getting a 3-year sentence handed down. Doing 3 years was tough, but it didn't slow China Mac down at all. When he came back home, China Mac got right back in the trenches. In less than a year after he was released, he caught a charge that almost put him away for life. On November 9th, 2003, China Mac's girlfriend got locked up and the whole situation got China Mac pressed. He went out with a couple homies to get his mind off of the situation, but nobody expected what was going to happen next. A few years before he went to prison, China Mac had barely survived getting stabbed. Someone came up from behind him and cut him deep, and the knife was less than an inch away from his heart. China Mac didn't even see who did it when it went down, but later some of his homies found out who it was and showed him pictures of the dude. China Mac said he had nightmares about the dude for years and always knew he'd kill him on sight if they ran into each other. And that's exactly what almost happened on November 9th. China Mac was with his homies and a couple dudes he didn't really know, and that's when one of them started talking to someone that China Mac recognized. He didn't put it together at first, but then he realized that his friend's homie was talking to the dude who had stabbed him a few years earlier. They were all out in the middle of a busy street, but China Mac upped his strap and was about to kill the dude right there. His homie jumped in front of him though and told China Mac not to shoot.
So I look at my boy, and my boy gives me this look like, oh. And then from right there, as soon as he made that face, I knew who he was. So I pulled out the gun, right? I pulled out the gun, and then I raised the gun, and my boy jumped in front of the gun and grabbed it like, no, not right here.
And that's when the dude who stabbed him ran away before China Mac could get his revenge. His homie stopped him from catching a murder charge, but that same night, he got caught up in another wild situation. China Mac went to a club with his homies after that. Running into the dude who stabbed him before had China Mac ready for anything, and that's when he spotted a Chinese-American rapper named Jin in the club. Jin came up in Miami, but moved to New York to start a rap career, and he ended up becoming the first Asian-American rapper to ever sign with a major record label. Back in 2003, Jin had a lot of buzz in the industry, so China Mac recognized him even though they didn't know each other. According to China Mac, one of his homies came up and said that Jin had disrespected one of their homies who was in prison at the time. China Mac didn't have any personal beef with Jin at all, but when his homie told him that, China Mac followed Jin to the bathroom and pressed him about the situation. China Mac and his homies caught Jin in the hallway of the club and started grabbing him, and that's when Jin's homie, Christopher Louis, tried to step in and help. Someone said that Christopher had a knife, and that's when China Mac put his gun up to the back of Christopher's head and pulled the trigger. Christopher would have died right there, but China Mac's gun jammed when he tried to shoot. Jin and Christopher started running while China Mac tried to unjam the pistol, and after he fixed it, he upped the strap and shot Christopher in the back. Christopher hit the ground, and China Mac just walked out of the club. China Mac knew that the cops were going to be onto him in no time because he just shot a dude in the middle of a crowded club, so he did the race and spent a whole year on the run. China Mac already had 2 violent felony strikes on his record, and he knew that getting caught could send him to prison for life even though Christopher didn't die. China Mac bounced around the States for a while, but then he decided to escape to Canada and go from there. But when he got to the border, the cops flagged his passport and he ended up getting booked and sent back to New York. They shipped him to Rikers Island, and China Mac thought he was going to get a life sentence. He was fighting every day because at that point, he didn't think he was ever going to see the outside again. But then he caught a massive break in his case. China Mac thought he was getting a life sentence because he already had 2 violent felonies on his record before the shooting went down. And with 3 strikes, they can lock you up forever. One of the charges was for cutting another dude when China Mac was locked up before, and his lawyer found out that it was actually filed as a misdemeanor instead of a felony. After that, the judge gave China Mac 11 years for the shooting instead of life, and that's when China Mac knew he had to switch up how he was moving. After he had been locked up for around a year, China Mac's mom came and visited him in prison. She was upset and crying the whole time, and when China Mac got back to his cell, he broke down in tears too. That's when an older dude who'd already been inside for decades told China Mac he had to choose the kind of life he was gonna have.
The dude came to my cell. He was like, yo, don't worry about it. Like, and he was older too.
Yeah.
He was like, yo, I've been doing this shit for like 30 years.
Yeah.
Right? He was like, you're gonna get past that. You know what I mean? But you have a choice right now. You got 2 choices right now. You know what I'm saying? And the choice is either you turn this shit, and I'll never forget what the fuck he told me. He said you're either gonna turn this shit into prison or you're gonna turn this shit into a university. You know what I'm saying? You make the choice.
China Mac knew he wanted to do better when he got back home, so he started reading books about business. China Mac was making good moves, but when you're locked up in a Supermax prison with some of the most violent criminals in the world, you're still gonna get caught up in some crazy situations. One day, China Mac wanted to make a call and saw that one of the phones in his block was free. It was hanging off the receiver, but nobody was around, so China Mac picked it up and made his call. While he was on the phone, a dude came up and said he wanted to use it, so China Mac told him just wait until he was finished. The other dude walked off, and that's when China Mac made a big mistake. Instead of watching what was going on around him, China Mac was facing the wall, and that's how the other dude got the drop on him. While China Mac was busy talking, the other dude came back with the razor and slashed China Mac's face. Other dudes in the block jumped in to break it up, but the situation didn't end there.
I was on the phone with my mother. So I'm like, yo, when we're talking to my moms and shit, somebody taps me. And he like, yo, that's my phone. Like, I'm like, all right, you gonna like wait until I get off? He was like, all right. So I'm like, all right. So I turn around and I'm stupid. I'm facing the wall. And I'm talking to my moms. And somebody comes behind me and he grabs my shoulder and then he reaches over and he like cuts me.
A couple of days later, China Mac got his own razor and was waiting for the dude in the hallway. The other guy saw China Mac through the door though, so before he came out, he went back and grabbed a massive prison knife. China Mac just had a little razor and knew it was a bad situation, but he went at the guy anyway. China Mac blocked the other dude's knife with his hand, then China Mac started cutting his face up. But while China Mac was slicing him, the other dude stabbed China Mac twice in the neck with his huge homemade knife. Luckily, the dude didn't really sharpen it though, because otherwise China Mac would have died on the spot. China Mac survived 10 years in prison and finally came home in 2013. He knew he wasn't going back to the streets, so instead he opened up a pet store and started his own record label. The drama wasn't over yet though, and China Mac ended up violating probation and spending another year behind bars. He didn't let it slow him down though, and when he got out again, China Mac started going hard in the booth. He dropped a bunch of music and even linked up with Method Man from Wu-Tang Clan. Then China Mac leveled up again when he started his own YouTube show called Mac Eats. The show popped off and got China Mac a lot of attention, and he went viral again when he had an hour-long interview with MC Jin where he talks about the night that China Mac shot Jin's homie. China Mac stayed out of trouble with the cops for a long time, but in 2018, he got arrested with over 40 other people. China Mac was shooting a music video on a rooftop in New York when the cops raided the place and booked everyone there for trespassing. They allegedly found a gun and 2 fake rifles, and it looked like China Mac might lose his freedom again. Luckily, the charges weren't that serious though, and China Mac was out again in no time. He had been trying to change his life and be better for years, but nobody expected what happened next. Back when the pandemic started in 2020, hate crimes against Asian people went up like crazy. In Texas, there was an Asian couple that got attacked in a shop for no reason, and even their 2 and 6-year-old kids were stabbed. Then in Brooklyn, 2 dudes ran up and sprayed an 89-year-old Chinese woman with lighter fluid and set her on fire. There were almost 3,000 attacks on Asian Americans just in 2020, and China Mac wasn't gonna just sit around and let it happen. He created a movement called They Can't Burn Us All and helped organize protests all over the country. China Mac also dropped a track called They Can't Burn Us All and raps, "They had us mind goals, but we were barely making pennies. Yeah, do you know where our pain at? Who you think built them train tracks? What we contribute, can't erase that. Put in blood, sweat, and tears. Tell them this is payback. God bless America, racist America. They hate us in America, but we help make America." China Mac wanted people like him to feel safe in America and said that he was inspired by what Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X did. A lot of people thought he was going to be an activist full time or even go into politics. But China Mac said, "I'm not an activist, man. I like to go to the strip club. I like to be in the hood. I'm not built for the political shit, but I am built to fight for my people." China Mac was making a lot of headlines for good reason, but he still had some drama going on. Back when he first got out of prison after serving 10 years, the first time anyone really heard of him was when China Mac did an interview with DJ Vlad. China Mac told the whole story about how he ended up in prison and all the wild situations he got wrapped up in, and Vlad ended up interviewing him a lot of times over the years. Vlad and China Mac had a lot of success together, but then a few things went down that made him fall out. Before we get to why Vlad and China Mac aren't rocking with each other right now, we gotta get into the backstory a little bit and talk about why No Jumper and Crip Mac are involved with the situation too. Back in 2022, China Mac started beefing with a dude named AD who used to be a host on No Jumper. It allegedly all started because China Mac thought AD took his ideas for a cooking show. So China Mac hopped online and challenged AD to run a fade one-on-one.
"This is some fuck shit you did. I don't like it. And now me and you gotta handle it, right? So I'm down for the fade. Like, I'm down for the fade."
China Mac and AD linked up and allegedly ran the fade. The fight was apparently caught on video but never came out, and China Mac went back on DJ Vlad's show and talked about it. A lot of people were showing love to China Mac and AD for handling it like that, but it turns out the whole situation might have been capped. Around the same time China Mac was having issues with AD, he started managing a dude named Crip Mac. Crip Mac is a wild dude who started going viral and trying to make it in the rap game too. China Mac became his manager and was trying to keep Crip Mac out of trouble, but then they started having some issues too. People were claiming that China Mac was using Crip Mac and taking all his money instead of looking out for him. But then both of them went on No Jumper, and Crip Mac said China Mac wasn't taking anything from him.
I know people saying like, China Mac taking advantage, all the money must be going to China Mac. Where the money going, bro?
To me, motherfucker, I got more thousands than a lot.
Do I get any money off of your
You
shit?
don't get none of my money.
After that, there were rumors going around that China Mac and Crip Mac had a falling out, but Crip Mac went back on No Jumper and said they were all good and that China Mac had helped him out with a lot of situations.
Yeah, me and China Mac have, but I'm gonna let you know why, because his mother, she was going through something. She's well now. So you know that type of stuff brought stress on.
Oh, really?
On him. So yeah, we worked everything out. That's my brother, that's my Chinese
Because
brother.
he's definitely like been pretty much the most consistent person in terms of managing you or working with you
But
over the last
he
2
helps
years.
me with a lot. Also, yeah, him and King Five Fingers, they helped me with a lot of stuff.
It seemed like everything was cool with them, but then Crip Mac got locked up on a federal gun case and the whole situation went left. A jail call from Crip Mac leaked online where he was saying that China Mac was banned from the West Coast.
I'm like, goddamn, cuz doing what? They doing tough guy shit. People are saying China Mac can't come back. about LA, this and that, Mr. Lovejoy, whatever. Bottom line is, China Mac, quit all that tough guy shit and just be the buddy whether you want. You have nothing to prove to nobody.
And then Adam 22 from No Jumper hopped into the situation. Adam 22 started going in on China Mac and said that he was scamming Crip Mac.
China Mac is a person who literally his entire way of earning money up until the moment that Crip Mac got locked up was taking a percentage of the money that me and other people would give to Crip Mac. He's literally a leech who was just feeding off of the Crip Mac show.
He also claimed that China Mac's fight with AD was fake, and that's why DJ Vlad stopped bringing China Mac onto his show.
It's just hilarious to me because he's sitting there stone-faced lying to Vlad. And Vlad is heaping praise upon him and telling China Mac how he thinks it's so mannish and grown up that China Mac was willing to go and shoot the fade with AD in a parking lot and that the video never came out and how much he respected it. Anyone who was in the No Jumper group chat at the time can confirm, and nobody's gonna go on record and say that that shit was real because we all know that it was fake.
According to Adam 22, Vlad was so pressed that China Mac lied about the fight that he didn't want to interview him ever again.
So Vlad starts asking all these questions. I explained to him how the whole thing was a work, and Vlad is fucking pissed. And I didn't find this out until much, much later, but Vlad instantly, as soon as we get off the phone, calls China Mac and confronts him about it because he's fucking pissed off that China Mac went on there and just basically fed a whole story to him. But that shit happened, and as a result, you haven't seen China Mac anywhere near the Vlad platform ever since, right?
But in an interview with P Films, China Mac said that Adam 22 was just trying to take him down. He said that Crip Mac isn't all there mentally and people take advantage of him, and that's what Adam 22 was doing.
Crip Mac is not all there. You know what I'm saying? I was gonna say that too. Crip Mac is not all there. Crip Mac can be manipulated. You know, it's just sad that, you know, I thought that, you know, because so many people has done him dirty, and because I showed him, you know, that I showed him what it feels like to not be done dirty, to be treated fairly, I thought that he wouldn't let somebody manipulate him in that way, you feel me? But he did.
China Mac also made it clear that he still has love for Crip Mac and wants him to succeed. And at the end of the day, he was just hurt over the situation.
Even to this day, I ain't even got no bad words for that man. Like it just hurts me more than anything. You know what I'm saying?
China Mac also clapped back at Adam for claiming his fight with AD was fake.
That energy, you can see my face was red. You feel me? I'm looking like, you know what I'm saying? Like I would not project myself to look like that. You know what I'm saying? That was a natural, like a natural response.
And let everyone know that Adam was lying about the DJ Vlad situation too and explain what really happened. China Mac had DJ Vlad on his live stream in early 2023 and decided to prank him on camera. China Mac and Vlad were sitting at a desk talking, and two dudes came in and started yelling at each other. One of them said he was gonna go get his gun, and in the video, you can see how uncomfortable Vlad was getting because he thought the situation was real. While the argument was heating up, Vlad stuck his hands in his pockets, and it turns out he was actually strapped up and getting ready for the smoke in case anything popped off. But then China Mac started throwing confetti at him and let Vlad know it was a prank.
Hey yo, Vlad, you've been fucking pranked. You've been pranked, Vlad! You got pranked, Vlad!
How you doing, man? How you doing? What's up?
After the live stream was over, China Mac and Vlad went out to dinner and everything was cool at first. But later, Vlad said he was pressed about the situation and decided he didn't want to work with China Mac anymore. Adam 22 brought Vlad on No Jumper and tried to bring up the story about Vlad getting mad over China Mac allegedly lying about the AD fight. But Vlad said he was just mad over the prank.
Me and you are still cool. Like, you know, we've posted some of his stuff before. He's hit me with a Happy New Year. I hit him back with a Happy New Year and everything else like that. I have no beef with China Mac at all. I wish him all the best, but I just said after that, I don't feel comfortable bringing you back on my platform and paying you and stuff like that because I feel like what you did wasn't respectful to our relationship.
When the real story came out, people started clowning Adam for lying about everything, trying to get views off China Mac. In his interview with P Films, China Mac said Adam 22 is starting drama because his views are going down, and that's why he's putting China Mac's name in a bunch of video titles.
He's mad because all his views are going down. You know what I'm saying? He's mad because they live streams they had to stop the Tuesday show because they couldn't compete with them. You know what I'm saying? With Figmunity or whatever, like, was going on. So he's saying like he needs to keep motherfuckers' names in this shit so he can stay alive.
No Jumper has been catching a lot of heat for all kinds of issues. AD and some other people left the show over drama going on behind the scenes. And even Rolling Stone called Adam out for bringing neo-Nazis on the show and exposed them for having sexual assault allegations against him. All the drama put China Mac back in the spotlight, but it looks like he's trying to move past it all and avoid ending up in any situation that could put him back in jail. China Mac's already come a long way from repping one of the most savage gangs in New York and spending over 10 years in prison, so hopefully he keeps the momentum up and doesn't throw it all away.